The culture of food is very much a local affair. Yet Filipino food has been influenced by the global flow of people, foods, and ideas for centuries. How has this affected Filipino cuisine?
Filipino cuisine is influenced not only by our location in Southeast Asia and whatever goes in this country, but also by the influence of 300 years of Spanish occupation, American occupation, even the Japanese.
One of the most popular Filipino dishes, caldereta, is actually influenced by the Spanish. A lot of our tomato dishes were influenced by the Spanish because they would bring the tomatoes here when we were colonized. They had these ships and all these new ingredients would come into the Philippines.
In a province called, maybe not too far from here, maybe about 70 kilometers from Manila, called Pampanga. There they would repair the ships because they had the ports to accommodate those ships. And a lot of the spices and herbs went down there. So a lot of the Spanish citizens married the locals. That's why this province, Pampanga, has the most Spanish-influenced cuisine in the entire country.
Chinese, they've been here even before the Spanish trading. So their food is just as much part of our food.
Spam is one example of how American processed meat produce became a staple in Filipino pantries, leading to what has been called a spam culture.
My guess is that during liberation, the American soldiers came in to free us from the Japanese, and they were distributing canned goods and processed foods. And it just became a symbol for people that that is progress.
Whereas before, they said that when there is a guest in a Filipino home, they would say, oh, please slaughter a chicken. But during the American time, they said that as a show of prosperity or abundance, they would say, oh, slaughter a can.
But what makes Filipino food distinctively Filipino?
My favorite example is actually our noodles. Yes, sure, the noodles came in from the Chinese, but we like to saute in garlic and onions. Then we like to use plenty of shrimps, which is very much of Southeast Asia. The blend of garlic, onions, tomatoes, and shrimps gives a distinct Filipino flavor.
I think what makes it distinct is not the influence per se, but the distillation of all these experiences into something that is truly Filipino, and that's something that we interpret as our own.
We don't really just want to serve people food, but we want them to know what they're really eating. So this rice are the same rice that our ancestors used and the same method. So most of our rice came from Cordillera or from Bukidnon or different parts of the Philippines.
This is the Filipino food. You know, in the Philippines, food vary from province to province. Let's say I'm from Pampanga. There's a different delicacy from the southern Tagalog, from Visayas and Mindanao, something like that.
The Philippines may be a small country, but we have 7,100 islands. And if you go from one barrio to another, you'd see that there's so many variations of the same dish. This is the piasok. It's beef braised in 10 spices. It's found in Sulu.
There's an effort to bring together the different peoples of the Philippines. At the same time, I think we have to respect also the particularities of each area.
What are the new trends influencing what people eat in Metro Manila today?
TV does influence how we see food, how we get excited about it. But for me, the main factor is actually social media. So more and more people are discovering new dishes through social media or new restaurants. And I think that's what's driving food trends, at least among the youth right now in the Philippines.
When tourism went up here in the Philippines, there was a market for hotels. So a lot of international chains opened here, and they brought in foreign chefs. A lot of the foreign chefs have seen the potential of the market here. A lot of them who used to work in hotels have left the hotels and put up their own restaurants.
I read this quote in an article about how food used to be about where you're from, but now it's about where you want to go. I think as young people who did go through the culinary school route, it was important for us to discover our own roots and where our country's cuisine came from. But at the same time, the great thing about working here in Purple Yam is that we are moving forward at the same time.
So overall, the trend I feel is both looking outward to other cuisines, but also deepening the understanding of what it means to have Filipino cuisine.
Filipino cuisine looks backward to its trade and colonial influences, but also forward towards new ways of preparing a meal and new conceptions of what makes for a healthy and tasty meal.
Ang iyong